Chapter 6, 3rd grade, Teachers and Grandparents, 1974. Hold fast to your dreams. If dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Langston Hughes. My grandpa Pancho, Francisco Lopez Navarro, was an old, kind, white-haired and hunched-over man. Besides owning lots of property and rentals, he also had a saddlery, where he made, traded, and sold leather equipment like harnesses and saddles for horses. "How did you lose your fingers, Grandpa?" I asked. "It was in the war, mijo," said Grandpa Pancho, "during battle." "What war, Grandpa? The same one where my great-grandpa Indo died?" I asked. Much like the Civil War of the United States after the Mexican Revolution, there was animosity between families and friends. Don Indalecio Ruiz Aguilar, my great-grandfather on my mother's side, was shot and killed during this war. He fought on the rebel side, while Grandpa Pancho had fought on the opposite side. "La Revolución Mexicana, mijo," said Grandpa quietly. He didn't like talking about it. "Yes, that's the war in which your grandpa's dad was killed. He died on his feet, mijo, and even though we fought on the opposite sides, he died like a man. I always respected him and the rebels. Your great-grandpa died like a hero." Grandpa Pancho had fought in the Mexican Revolution. Because of his political views, besides having a Spaniard heritage, he was proud to have fought with the Federals. He considered himself a patriot. He had answered his call of duty by fighting against Los Rebeldes, a rebel revolutionary movement that had been born as a form of resistance against the corrupt and oppressive government of the time. "Grandpa, can kids start a revolution?" I asked. "A lot of kids at my school don't like some teachers. I, like most failing and defiant students, didn't like rules or strict teachers." Slap! A 12-inch wooden ruler landed on my back, waking me up from my ideas of rebellion against oppressive teachers. "Ouch!" I protested, when Mrs. Dolores, my 3rd grade teacher, hit me. I should have been in 4th grade by now, but I had failed 1st grade and there I was in 3rd grade again. In Mexico, if you didn't have passing grades, you had to do it all over again, one more year, until you either had passing grades or drop out. "No big deal," Eulalia Yayita Tafoya Sanchez, my grandma, used to say. "It's more important that you be a kid than to do all that homework. I want you to play and learn to enjoy life, not loving work so much that you become its slave." Freeze the story. A few years later, I remembered Fari in middle school. He was almost 21 years old, and he was in 10th grade. He played on all the teams. He was the best player. I guess being the oldest helped. Fari had repeated 3 years in 8th, 3 years in 9th, and 3 years in 10th grade. Teachers had really drilled Harry Fari. They had drilled him with lessons and after-school programs that, in 9th grade, as a prank, a bunch of students, led by Jujo, ran a campaign for him. It was principal re-election year. There were 2 candidates from out of town, 2 teachers, and the current principal were campaigning to get the principal position. "Vote for Fari," was the prankster's slogan. "Fari's been around. Vote for him to be your next principal," said Chucho. That was the funniest election that year. During the election, some students had actually voted for him. No, he didn't win. Back to my story. "That's your last warning, güerito," said the angry teacher. "I've told you to stay in your seat. I've told you not to leave class, to be quiet, and not to talk to others. But I guess this is the only way you will listen." The nickname güerito or güerita is for people with light skin. In this rural part of Mexico, I am what some people call a light mestizo. My dad's blood was Spanish. The Navarros had come from Spain. My mom's blood, on the other hand, was Aztec and Tarascan, the brown pride type. Wait, I'll pay attention, I promise. Please don't smack me again with the ruler. It makes me scared, very scared, I said with a mocking smile, looking around at the smiling audience of third graders, giggling and loving the show. "You're so scary, Mrs. Dolores." The entire class burst into laughter. "That does it, güerito." The older lady moved towards me. I had a smirk and a defiant face. She moved as fast as her oversized dress and awkward shoes allowed her, peeking through her thick glasses, so thick they look as they've been carved out from the bottom of a glass of Coca-Cola bottle. With one hand she grabbed me by the hair, and with the other she pinched my ear. She moved slower than my grandpa's, I thought. Every time the angry teacher moved, I couldn't help but think of my grandpa's. When I saw Mrs. Dolores talk and move, she looked scarier than the stories my grandpas used to tell me. "Listen, mijo," Grandpa Pancho said. "Whenever anybody hits you, you have to hit back. You have to stand up, speak up, and defend yourself," said the blonde, white-haired, blue-eyed, gentle-looking grandpa. Grandpa," I started to say, "what about teachers that hit me?" "What about them, mijo?" said Grandpa Pancho. "They're supposed to teach you and discipline you. Otherwise, you'll grow up to be a savage. It is their duty to correct you." "Well, I don't like it," I said, frowning. "I don't like it when they yell at me in front of everybody, with that stupid ruler. I'm wondering if that's why I don't like numbers. That stupid ruler reminds me of my math every time I'm smacked with it. I don't like it when she pulls my ear or my sideburns. And I don't like it when she sends me to the burro's corner," I said angrily. The burro's corner was the corner in front of the class where teachers made kids face the wall and wear a donkey's ear hat for all to see. This was a sure way for kids to get embarrassed in front of the class, or for clown kids like me, who had fun at the expense of inflexible and intolerant teachers. If you were sent to the burro's corner, it meant that you were as dumb as a donkey. So, kids who didn't understand the lesson, who didn't pay attention, or who were disrupting class were sent to the burro's corner. The teacher was the almighty ruler of the classroom. She could send any student to sit on the dreaded three-legged stool facing the wall. Well, they were supposed to embarrass kids, if they cared, that is. Me, I guess I didn't care. I'd be glancing back to the class to get a smile or two from the other students. "Tell me, mijo," started Grandpa Pancho, with the poise of a lawyer cross-examining a lying witness. "Are you doing what you're supposed to do when she does any of those things to you?" "Well, no, but I started when I was briskly interrupted. "Yes or no, mijo," said Grandpa curtly. He had to, otherwise I'd make mockery out of his teaching moment, as he used to say. "Well, no," I conceded quietly, "but that doesn't mean does Mrs. Dolores pick on you when you're doing your work?" interrupted Grandpa again. "Are you doing your work when she disciplines you?" "No, but," I said again, trying to justify. "Yes or no?" interrupted Grandpa again. "Yes or no? We'll get to the excuses after we get the facts straight." "Well, no. There, you happy?" I said angrily. "If I didn't know any better, I think you would want the teacher to hit me." I liked testing adults to see who was on my side, who would protect me, who would have my back. My thoughts were interrupted abruptly when Mrs. Dolores pinched and took a solid hold of my ear and sideburn hair. "Ouch!" I screamed. "Ouch! I got it! I'll walk to the burro's corner myself. You don't need to get personal, Mrs. Dolores, I said, smiling and glancing back at the class. The kids loved it. They were giggling, laughing, giving me thumbs up. Güerito, just 'cause you're cute and funny, and well, sometimes nice, that doesn't mean that you can break the rules. You have to follow the rules, and my job is to make sure that you do, said the frustrated teacher. I'll tell on you, Mrs. Dolores. I'll tell my grandma that you've hit me, I threatened. I knew my grandpa wouldn't come to my rescue, so I resorted to my grandma. Grandpa Indo's wife was not okay with corporal punishment as grandpa was. Every time I would tell Grandma Yayita about the unfair and cruel treatment I got at the school, she went to the principal's office. This occurred at least once a week. Don't you touch him again, she yelled, defended and threatened in whatever way she could. Yayita must have been 80 pounds, tops. She was small, but stood like a giant, with a cigarette in one hand and a warm bottle of Coke on the other. She was mostly patient, but she could argue. She was the type of grandma that loved all her 40 or 50 grandchildren alike. She made anybody feel like they were special. Her demeanor and uplifting spirit were able to cheer up the most depressed person. She made people think they were the most important person in the world, or so it seemed every time she interacted with any of them individually. For example, many years later, when she died, while we were at the funeral, I thought, why are my cousins and all these people crying and talking as if they knew my grandma the way I did? Everybody was acting as if they had a special relationship with her. I thought I was the only one, the favorite, the grandchild with a purpose. I smiled. I cannot believe it. She made all these fools feel like she made me feel, like the most important person in the world. However, when she was alive, and when it came to protecting her own, she wasn't the nice little old lady everybody knew. You touch my nieto one more time, that was the usual threat, and I'll come and personally make you pay for it, Yayita said. Calm down, señora, calm down, the principal would say. You know how Elio is. He's a little hyper and he likes to tease teachers, so they have to discipline him from time to time. You know how it is. No, I do not know how it is. And no, he's not hyper. He's just, what's the word? Inquisitive. Yes, he's inquisitive. You guys pick on him because he's güerito, because he's different. It's not his fault, you know? I want you to leave him alone, was Grandma's final line. Grandpa Pancho would always tell me, love is good, mijo, but enabling love, not so good. Yes, family is there to protect the young, but disciplining children is important too. Grandpa Pancho's belly-expanded background had taught him that. This is how you claim your place in the world, he used to say. This is how you win fights. Nay, this is how you win wars. Just look at history, mijo. Civilizations that don't hold people accountable become weak cultures that get conquered by strong and disciplined ones. The Navarros came from the Kingdom of Navarra, Spain, from a line of conquistadores, a line of soldiers, as brave as the Aztecs and Tarascan warriors from my mom's side of the family. There you go, güerito, there you go. Mrs. Dolores finished escorting me to the burro's corner and finally let go of my ear. What's next? I said playfully. You going to call my grandma? She wouldn't do anything, you know. In fact, I'll tell her what a mean teacher you are, and she's going to take me to the movies, so I don't grow up to be a bitter person like you. That's the problem, güerito. That's the problem. You need to be disciplined, and you need to be taught good manners. I wish you could come and live with me. I could teach you a thing or two about respect. Mrs. Dolores' eyes pierced through mine. Nobody teaches the Navarros anything, Grandpa used to say. We live by our own customs, our beliefs. Nobody teaches us. We're conquistadores. According to Grandpa, the Navarros had been in a lot of wars. Even 2 centuries before Christ was born, they had fought the Roman armies. Later, in the 8th century, they had fought the Moors from North Africa. In the Middle Ages, we fought as the Knights Templars. We fought the Muslim invaders. Too many wars to mention. We fought against all the great empires the world has ever seen. the English, the Portuguese, the Americans. If there was a war, no matter the time or the place, we were there. Grandpa, I asked with a worried face, did the Navarros also fight the Aztecs? Did they conquer and kill my grandpa's Indo's family? I finished asking sadly. Well, yeah, but your Indian ancestors were also brave warriors, mijo. Although conquered, they were brave warriors that lived and died as proud and as tall as giants. They fought and died like men, said Grandpa Pancho respectfully. Grandpa Indo says the Spanish might have occupied the land, but they never conquered the Mexicans' hearts and minds, I said. What does that mean, Grandpa? What does he mean by hearts and minds? The last name Ruiz, my mother's maiden name, a Christian name forced to the Mexican natives by the conquering Spanish, was another way for the Spaniards to kill the culture, heritage, and traditions of Mexican origins. The Ruiz had come from an ancient lineage of brave warriors, in culture and advanced civilizations. Indalecio Ruiz Avalos, Grandpa Indo, was my mom's father. He was proud of his bloodline, so proud that he used to wear a typical indigenous straw hat, handmade pants, and guayabera shirts made of potato sack material, to go along with his guaraches de la araña made of leather. My grandpa, great-grandpa, and the Ruiz ancestors despised any attempts of the white devil, as they called the Spaniards, to civilize the natives with European education and Catholicism, which threatened the Aztecs and Tarascan's heritage treasures. The Ruiz despised the European influence so much that my grandpa and great-grandpa dropped out of first grade. They, like many natives of the time, boycotted the systemic educational attempt of the Europeans to spread Eurocentric culture. Don't ever bow down to nobody, mijo. Don't ever negotiate. Don't compromise your values and principles. Don't ever sell your soul to the devil, especially the white devil, Grandpa Indo used to say. My Grandpa Pancho says we're supposed to think, to negotiate, and to suppress our pride to achieve great things, I would reply to Grandpa Indo. No, mijo, that's how mischievous men of no principle think, said Grandpa Indo. Not you, mijo, not you. You come from a pure breed lineage of Tarascan warriors. We don't compromise. We stand and defend our culture, our beliefs, and our way of life. Don't ever settle for anything less than that. What about waiting for the right moment to get what we want? I say shyly. Grandpa Pancho says that if you persist long enough, you can get what you want, as long as you're willing to reason and negotiate. Have you been talking to Don Pancho? Asked Grandpa Indo, in an accusatory tone. Well, yes, Grandpa, I said hesitantly. I don't want you to learn his ways, mijo. I've told you that before. The ways of the white man are to cheat, steal, and sell their soul to El Diablo, if that's going to get them what their greedy souls want, said Grandpa Indo. But Grandpa Pancho said, has he told you about your family feud? Has he told you that there's irreparable damage because of what happened in the revolution? Has he told you he fought on the other side? Has he told you that he and his compadres killed your great-grandpa?
Juan, Colorado me llaman, soy señores de Michoacán. Ya están los más salidones al mirarme, muchos se van. Traigo mi cuerpo una silla que es de cuero, plata y marfil. Siento para que quede rendir, que viva mi tierra Michoacán y déme charanda para brindar, que Juan Colorado ya está aquí, montado en su cueco en huracán, en huracán.